Welcome to the Gun Show. Kirk Cousins joining us. I see what you're doing.
Just finished the lift. Happy birthday, Dan.
Thank you, bud. Thank you. How much can
Yeah.
you bench?
Well, I haven't gotten under a bench press in a very long time. I got sophomore in college. My max was I did 225 16 times.
Okay.
And I realized that it started to become a concern. Like the more you lift as a quarterback, the more the NFL coaches may think you're too stiff. So then it kind of backed away from it.
Describe the emotions the last 3+ weeks.
I'm excited. There's been a lot of change. I think that's the biggest thing right now for me is, as one old teammate said to me, when you go to a new team, nothing is on autopilot. Nothing's on cruise control. There's days where I miss lunch because I don't know where the cafeteria is, or I don't know when lunch ends. And so everything is new, even like figuring out what room can I use to watch film, and how do the lifts work? Everybody's new, everything's new. And so there's a lot of unknown, and you're starting to settle in, but a lot of change. And that's part of what you sign up for. I did it going from Washington, Minnesota, and now again coming to Atlanta.
Okay, but 3 weeks ago, how were your spirits?
Well, I mean, my spirits have kind of always been understanding that competition is a part of this job, this league. I go back to my story, and you know my story quite a bit, Dan, but in high school, I commit to Michigan State, and a few weeks later, Mark D'Antonio calls me to tell me that Nick Foles is going to be offered a scholarship as well. And I then looked up what Nick Foles had done in high school, and I thought he lived the movie Friday Night Lights. I mean, he played in state championship games. He played in front of 10,000 plus seat crowds. Like, this is not my high school experience, so I'm in trouble. But you learn that, hey, we go to work, we practice, we get better, we improve, we play the long game. And, Nick and I were both able to have long college careers and pro careers. Then I go to Washington, and it was a similar dynamic where you realize there's a quarterback in the same draft class as me here in this quarterback room. What does that mean for our careers? And you realize that, both of us were able to have productive careers in the sense that we both played a lot of football. And then again, now when you see us take a quarterback, you say, hey, this is more the norm than the exception. And I would expect both of us to go on to have, great careers up ahead. You just don't know how. That's the thing. You don't know how it's going to play out. I didn't know how Nick Foles and I were both going to have long pro careers. I didn't know how Griff and I were going to end up playing, but it all works out. And I think this will be no different.
All right, take me back to Minnesota. Did they tell you they were going to draft a quarterback?
Well, they let me know pretty right before the pick, but outside of that, no.
But if you had stayed there, were they still going to go after J.J. McCarthy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, you were saying Minnesota. I was talking about Falcons. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the conversations. So much of it was through my agent. No, it was very gray. It was very, we don't know what we're going to do. And speaking with Kevin O'Connell, who was always very communicative with me. It was, we're not sure. He said, if we bring you back, we'd love to use the draft picks on defense. But you understand nobody really knows in March what they're going to do in late April.
But if you had known, if I gave you a do-over, Minnesota's going to take J.J. McCarthy, and Atlanta's going to take Michael Penix.
Yeah, no, I just don't think it's helpful to deal in hypotheticals. I mean, you can do that with any scenario at any point in your career. If this, then what? And you can go down a lot of trails. But I'm excited to be here in Atlanta, to be the quarterback of the Falcons. I think we've got a great opportunity to win a lot of games here, and have a lot to look forward to up ahead.
So you're watching the draft, and then you get a heads up, 30 seconds before the pick?
Yeah, maybe a minute and a half. It wasn't much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you at home with the wife and kids?
I was at a draft function at the stadium, and I was driving back up to my house. Yeah. Yeah.
So then you call your wife, and you say
Right.
what?
Basically what the team told me, that, hey, they're going to be drafting a quarterback. And, I think, again, I'm kind of rehashing with you. I remind my wife, hey, this is a big part of my story, going back to when I committed to Michigan State, going back to when I was drafted to Washington. And it's always had a way of working itself out. And so let's draw on past experience to trust that the future, can be the same.
We're talking to Kirk Cousins, the Falcons quarterback. If the season started today, your role would be what with the team?
I believe I'm a starting quarterback.
No, but health-wise.
Yeah, no, I'm good to go. I've told people for a while that if the Super Bowl were today, I'm playing, and that goes back probably. I think when I first got here, I was working out, and we got maybe a week or two into my rehab, and I did some drills where I said, "Hey, if the Super Bowl were today, I'm playing," and they seem to agree. So, once that tendon gets stabilized and healed, and the tissue connects, you really just are trying to work through telling your body that you're good now, because the brain still wants to guard and protect, and it takes some time. But I feel really good, and there's more to go get, but I can operate. I've been out practicing now, and I think that's a great sign.
It feels like this was a death sentence a decade ago. And now all of a sudden the Achilles surgery is something that, okay, Aaron Rodgers, has that surgery changed further surgeries for anybody who has an Achilles injury?
I think maybe the ACL too has been similar, where when Gale Sayers did it, it was a death sentence to his career, but guys do it now and they come back stronger. Adrian Peterson does it, and the next year runs for 2,000 yards and is offensive player of the year. So, I remember when my agent, after I did the injury, we were talking, and he said, "Look, this used to be a 12-month injury. Now it's a 9-month injury. Some guys are coming back in 7 to 5 months." So he said, and plus he said, "You're a pocket passing quarterback. So this just is not." This is not the issue that it might be made out to be in the media. It just won't be that. It is reality. And I think it's a credit to, the medical advances and the rehab teams and what they're doing.
Well, I don't think you can run less than you normally do. Right?
Yeah, I have never been a scrambling quarterback. So it shouldn't really change the way I play, even if I were to not heal fully, which I expect to. But no, I expect to be the same player, if not maybe a little more athletic, because of how aggressive I'm going in the rehab with calf raises and jumping and leg presses and squats and things where maybe I wouldn't normally be doing that. So I should have an even better lower half than I've always played with. And speaking of Achilles injuries from the past, when I first did it, I went and looked up people, notable people who have torn their Achilles. And obviously recently it was Aaron Rodgers, it was Megan Rapinoe. But I realized there were some names going way back, obviously Dan Marino, but Judi Dench, the actress and dancer, she tore her Achilles. Brad Pitt, Russell Crowe, George Clooney all tore their Achilles. Al Gore tore his Achilles. So I realized there's a lot of people who accomplish great things post Achilles tear. So I feel like I'm in good company.
Did you reach out to George Clooney or Brad Pitt or Judi Dench?
Well, I reached out to Rodgers, and I know Rodgers has a little bit bigger platform than me, right? So I said, "Hey, Aaron," I said, maybe during Super Bowl week or something, we have an Achilles tear summit in Vegas where we get all the heavy hitters together who have torn their Achilles. And I think with your contacts out there in California, we can make something happen. So he seemed to agree, but we just never really made it happen.
That'd be great if you got all these actors that came there. Rodgers hosted the seminar, get the doctor in there. That'd be
There's
great.
still time. There's still time. We could have an Achilles tear summit and get all the heavy hitters in one room. I think it could make for a lot of great conversation.
How important was it to bring your family back home for your wife?
Yeah, my wife is somebody who, if I told her, "Hey, I'm retiring tomorrow," she'd say, "No problem." If I told her I'm playing 10 more years, she'd say, "No problem." If I said we're playing in Japan, she'd say, "Great, the boys can go learn Japanese." So she's kind of up for whatever, up for the adventure. She loved Minnesota, but the fact that we're coming to Atlanta for her family, her parents, her siblings, they're huge sports fans, lifelong Atlanta sports fans. I think for them, it's hard to even believe that they have a family member now who's playing for the Falcons. So that's fun.
What'd you do with all your Vikings gear?
What a great question. We do have a lot of it, and we're putting it in boxes and then mailing it back up to our next door neighbor, other teammates, because we have clothes for our kids and things where their, teammates' kids can use. So we're trying to recycle, if you will, the best we can, because we do have a lot of purple and gold around. And I've had a lot of friends and family text me saying, man, the only challenge is now we got to buy new jerseys, new hats, new sweatshirts. So it can get expensive changing teams for your support cast.
How many players do you know on the team if they don't have their jerseys on or they're not standing by their lockers?
Yeah, another great question. We have 90 guys in the locker room, so it's not like a basketball team where if you learn 12 to 15 names, you're good. So I know the offense, and that's partly because that's the group I'm with at the lifts and at the meetings. It's the defense where it's harder for me because we just brought in a whole new cast of rookies now, and I don't have as many shared times with the defense. So I'm trying to learn names, but I still got a ways to go. And even the coaching staffs, I feel like support staff and coaching staffs have almost doubled since my rookie year in this league. So there's a lot of support staff, which is great to have the help, but it's a lot of names to learn.
But are you one of those guys that, hey, bud, like if you like
hey, pal?
Yeah, like what do you say when you don't know who somebody is, but you don't want to be like, man, Kirk doesn't even say hello to me. Like you got to go, hey, hey
no
there.
doubt. I think there's a lot of that, Dan. You get it. I mean, I'm walking across the field today to go to my next meeting and crossing the defense, and it's, hey, bud, hey, pal, how you doing? How you doing, guy? So you have to do what you have to do. Plus, if I said to everybody, hey, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? There's a good chance I forget it. By the time I get through the next lift. So it's just a process, and I haven't yet gone home and like really tried to like study names with flashcards, but it may be something I have to do if it drags on.
How about name tags? Hello, my name is.
Name tags are a game changer. And at college, Michigan State, Mark D'Antonio, it was mandatory at training camp, no matter who you were, you had to wear a tape name on your helmet or on your shirt if you were a coach. So even Coach D'Antonio had a deal, Coach D'Antonio. Nobody was immune. So that would really help new guys, certainly, if we could just all have name tags.
Before I let you go, you're a good businessman, or somebody is a good businessman, because you and Darrelle Revis have had two unbelievably great financial careers, making really good decisions.
No, I appreciate the kind words. It really goes back to my agent, Mike McCartney. I just kind of did what he told me over the last 12 years. I remember when Joe Flacco was playing in the Super Bowl, my rookie year. I didn't know anything about contracts or how the league works. And my agent in New Orleans, the week of the game, explained to me Joe's situation. Now, he was going to be a free agent, that the franchise tag is something that a team would use, that it's probably in Joe's best interest to be tagged, play on that tag twice, and then go to the market. I mean, he explained this whole path, not knowing that in 3 years from that moment, we would be living out that path. And so my agent explained to me then when it came our turn, he said, unless we can do a fully guaranteed contract over 3 years, we will just play on the franchise tag. And so that was what was offered. That was what was explained. The team chose not to do that. We played on the 2 franchise tags, then went to the market, and then we did a 3-year fully guaranteed contract. So I pretty much just did what Mike McCartney told me. His wisdom proved to be true, and I've just kind of followed him every step of the way, and we'll see where it goes from here. He joked when we signed with the Falcons as he was leaving the building. He said to the staff, he said, "We'll see you guys in 3 years for the extension," which I thought was a good line. So we'll see if where it goes from here.
Well, you're able to go out and buy another minivan, and really that's your quality of life, isn't it? Is that your big splurge, that you get a minivan for the family?
I've kind of been known as a guy who's pretty cheap, and I will say that I do have a bit of a everything I spend on has to have usefulness. It has to have utility. So if a conversion van can have utility for my family, I'm going to get a nice conversion van. But yeah, like when people say, "Oh, are you going to get some chains? Or are you going to get an awesome sports car?" It's like, well, the utility's not really there, so it's hard for me to get excited about it. But yeah, I mean, I don't want the narrative to be that I don't spend money, because believe me, I've flown on a private jet before. I've done some nice things. I bought a golf course in my hometown, so when there's utility or I see a reason to do it, I'll write the check just like anybody else. But I also can get pretty cheap if I don't see the utility in it.
Great to talk to you. Good luck again with the rehab, and hopefully we'll check in with you when you start the season. Thank you.
Yeah, great catching up. Always good to see you. It takes me back even to my college days when we had our first interviews. And happy birthday to you, and excited for there to be many more up ahead.
Thank you, bud.